Hey everyone, welcome to Coffee with Joe for Thursday, May 20th, 2010. Joe's right here live with me in my house in Plainfield, Vermont. He's up visiting his daughter and granddaughter.
Yep.
And we were just having breakfast this morning over at the local River Run Cafe with a couple of friends and who really don't know anything about monetary reform. And they asked what we'd been up to recently. We got a chance to explain it from scratch a little bit.
Yeah.
Lost a couple of them right off the bat.
As usual.
Yeah, I mean, some people just can't handle talking about the macroeconomy in this way. Fair enough. That's part of the resistance level we're trying to deal with here. But then there are a couple of guys who are more interested and asked some follow-up questions. And one guy's a field biologist, and he asked what effect would this have on the environment if there was less debt service being paid because we had a debt-free money system. Would that mean that there's more money in the pockets of consumers, and would that mean that there's more consumption, and wouldn't that be bad for the environment? So, Joe,
Yeah.
what do you think? Does monetary reform solve all the problems of the environment?
Definitely not. Okay, Pete, it definitely does not solve the problems of the environment. When you come right down to it, the thing that it does do, okay, the thing that monetary reform carried out in the way that we're talking about it, okay, what it would do is enable, if you will, a change in the moneyed political process that could transform the moneyed political process into a kind of a more democratic political process, one where the power of money decreases and the actual power of political power of democracy and voting increases. Perhaps one, if you would think of it, where the congressman, when you walk into his office and say, we want to have this happen as a benefit for the environment because it's important, for sustainability, etc., can listen to what you have to say and can evaluate, judge what you have to say on the basis of its merits versus the basis of the moneyed contribution that they need in order to, run their next political campaign. So to try to take out of the environmental social debate, discussion, and the need for doing something about the environment, and then that could be applied to any social need, and to substitute the real discussion for the money-supported discussion. That's the main thing that it would do. It's more enabling than it is causal. Okay, it doesn't cause any improvement in the environment. Improving the environment remains the struggle that it is, but it just enables the political process to operate without the corruption that we have now of the money, influence on the process. I remember, I go back to, Goldenweiser's quote about, we don't have to worry about politics influencing monetary policy. We have to worry about the bankers and the money power influencing politics. And he was writing on the American monetary system, one of the most noted economic monetary writers, historians, I'd say academics, okay? So that's the part of the process of the overall, Pete, the overall social political process that would be most influenced by a successful transition to monetary reform. That to me is a big one.
Well, one thing that I said this morning was that I didn't think it would solve the problems of the environment all by themselves, but we weren't going to have much chance of solving the problems of the environment without monetary reform as a precondition.
Right. The way I look at that is, as long as we have the debt-based money system, and what we're involved with right now is, the debt-based money system running up against its own limitations and the limitations of its non-sustainability, continuing to take out of the economy and the money that we put into the economy, debt service payments. on an increasing, escalating scale, taking money away from doing everything else, taking money away from solving the environmental problem, or the infrastructure problem, if you will, Pete, or the education problem, or the problem of jobs, you know, maybe probably wages, the most important. That great sucking sound that you hear coming out of your pension plan and your school budget and all of that, is that great sucking sound now is the debt service payments going into the financial services industry, so that there's very little left for the rest of us. And yeah, we can't solve those problems until we stop that drain, or that sucking of the money from the money system into the financialization part of the economy. That has to happen, and then we can have money that's available for real needs, the real needs of the people.
Do you think the debt money system promotes a war economy around the world more than a peace economy? And do we have a better chance of having a peaceful economy with a debt-free money system?
Well, I mean, I think the answer is yes. A debt money system, you know, promotes, you know, the power and interest, a power and interest structure that would lead us towards war. Okay, because why? Because there's kind of a lack of a balance against the moneyed interests and the corrupting influence of the moneyed interests towards what it is that we do. And you know, the defense industry, the industry of defense, and really should call it the industry of war, you know, and more than the industry of defense. The industry of war is capable of greatly manipulating, you know, globally, everything that happens within the economy, and so therefore the need to go to war is very often to protect our interests, our power and interest structure in other parts of the world. So what we need to do, I think, is to get back to the economic democracy thing, Pete. Okay, because if we can reduce, if not remove, you know, the degree of corruption in our political system, in our political process, that the moneyed interest, you know, has, we would then be on the road to democratizing the decision making. And that is to say, again, that the people matter. And that would manifest itself not only politically, but also economically and financially, internally in this country. And let me try to explain what I mean by that. When we have reform, and we have a money system where the money that's being introduced next year, I'm going to use the next year as $250 billion of new money being introduced by the government, deposited into the bank accounts of the businesses and the individuals who are receiving these goods and services, you know, from the government. That money gets deposited into our bank accounts, regardless of who we are. Okay. Now, what do we do with that money? Whatever we want. You know, that's what we do with it. Okay. Once it's our money now, we're not relying on the banks to create $250 billion and to determine what happens with that $250 billion. We already have the $250 billion. It's our money. So now we're going to lend it to the banks. Now the banks are going to pay us money for it, or for our deposits, if they're savings and investment deposits. And we're going to see what they're doing with our money. So right there you have, you know, an element of economic democracy and economic power, a socioeconomic power, back to the people that we've never had. You know, we've relied on the trickle-down theory of money, Pete. You know, the money creators are in private hands. The private banks are creating all the money. They're determining where in the economy that the money's going to flow. Okay, so if their bank corporation of that Federal Reserve District includes the war industry, Pete, that's where the money's going to go. Okay. If the people are in control of what the banks are going to be lending the money for, it's going to be for more public-spirited, public-interested purposes, public purpose. The public purpose of a public money system. That's basically what we're after.
To be continued.
Okay, thanks for being here too.
Yep. Thanks for coming.
Okay.